Hi, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining us for this edition of IPA Talk, and this is a bit of a special edition as we're doing something to commemorate the fact that we're right in line with Veterans Day here across our country and celebrating the outstanding work, dedication, sacrifice of the men and women in uniform that really put it all on the line so that we can enjoy the freedom that we do here in the United States. And I've got a couple of very special guests with me, John Carrigan as well as Vicki DeWitt. John, VP with Wells Fargo, but also is president. I'm going to make sure I get the title right, John, so I'm going to look at my notes because we were talking about this earlier. The World War II Illinois Veterans Memorial Board of Directors. There you go. Thank you. And you're president with that, been doing that for some time. Vicki DeWitt's one of our project specialists here with professional development at IPA, but also working with the Classroom Voices Project and capturing lots of great stories of our veterans across many conflicts. I know dealt with World War II veterans and such, but going much deeper with that. But guys, you guys have been doing some really special work, and because of Vicki's involvement with IPA, we've been turned on to that here, and now IPA, along with our Principals Foundation, has gotten involved with the Classroom Voices work that students have been up to. But John, just talking with you a little bit, you know, you've been involved with the World War II board for, you said, about 16 years
16
or
years,
so.
Right. 13 years as president.
Well, that's pretty significant. That's so obviously it takes a lot of passion and dedication to do that. So why for so long? What got you involved, and what's kept you there for so long?
Sure. Just my father, first of all, he was a World War II veteran. Mm-hmm. My mother comes from a Nazi labor camp, and she was taken away in her youth, 16, 18 years old, we're not really sure, but she served in Camp Wildfleck in Germany. And it was after her release from the labor camp, not to be mistaken with concentration camps, by the way. Right. Labor camps is that's what they did, was labor. It was very brutal. But anyway, she met my father, and they were wed in Framing, France. Wow. And she came over on the USS Huddleston right into Ellis Island. So she is a French civilian that was taken prisoner, and she was a war bride. Mm-hmm. And for that very reason, it was the American soldiers that actually saved her life. These were young men, and she was searching for freedom, and they delivered it. And I think it's important that America understand that not only do our veterans protect our soil, but they also deliver freedom throughout the world. And that is what they did with my mother.
Yeah. Wow, that's a fascinating story, and I've gotten to know you a little bit, and I'm not sure that I even knew that. So I appreciate you being willing to share that. That's really important. So, John, talk to us a little bit about the war memorial work, and you know, what's it like for people that maybe haven't experienced that, the location, you know, what they will see there. Could you give kind of a visual picture of what the board put together and what's now available for people to commemorate the sacrifice of our World War II vets?
Sure. The centerpiece is a white globe. Just absolutely, if you can ever drive by there at night, seeing it as a centerpiece lit up, it's just encascaded by two black walls. One is the Pacific side, the other is the European side. It runs in numeric order. We're starting with Pearl Harbor, obviously on the Pacific side, running all the way up in date order. And with each battle, there's a alphanumeric value. And if you go up to the globe, it will have on the globe that very alphanumeric pin in where that battle took place. So it's really just is beautiful, etched in black granite walls, and then a white flag in the center with this white globe. It's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah. So I appreciate you giving us that visual, John, and also knowing that you know, those around the board table didn't feel like the work was done, apparently, because dollars were available and other individuals were getting involved, and that's now what brings IPA and our Principals Foundation into this a little bit as well. You know, with the Veterans Classroom Project, can you just talk us through what got us to this point, how things got started, and where you see where we are right now?
Absolutely. And certainly without Vicki DeWitt and without IPA, we wouldn't be here. And where we are is somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 stories in the Library of Congress.
There's probably more than that, yeah.
It's more than that. And what that is just through our funding, about $250,000 in funding that we got it started with, we underwrote laptops and cameras, allowing children throughout their communities in Illinois to go interview, at the time, World War II veterans, since it's been expanded to more veterans, Korean and Vietnam included. But what is beautiful about this is that memorials stand still. You must go to them, you must drive there and visit them. Through this project, it's outreach. Some of these veterans had a child sitting in front of them. And for, in some cases, the first time this veteran told their story to that generation. Yeah. Literally, the child is reaching for the story, the veteran's going to deliver to a perfect stranger. And families understood at that time what their family member went through. And never before, in some cases, had that ever happened.
Meaning they had never heard that story before.
Never heard it. So because of this outreach, and with this all posted on the World Wide Web, and I say World Wide Web this time, people in other countries that were affected by Illinois World War II veterans are seeing this and recognizing that they saw a plane that went down in the field where they lived. Because of that, they came to visit the veteran here in Illinois at our World War II Memorial. The outreach and the technology and the broad-based just surrounding of what technology has done, I believe we have educated, again with IPA's help, much more, not just Illinois, not just the United States, but you see, now we've educated other people in other countries. Yeah. It's very critical.
Yeah, you bet. So I want to bring in Vicki here a little bit, John, because I think I could be fair in saying, knowing Vicki and the great work she does here for the association, she was really the driving force that got a lot of these things done.
Driving force.
Correct, for sure.
Oh, we praise her all the time, and sometimes I think she thinks it's false praise, but it's legit. Yeah. Without her, we wouldn't be here. Yeah. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, so Vicki, can you talk to us a little bit about, the work that's happening at schools, how they're engaging, with the board and able to access the funds, and then also, the real things that are happening in classrooms with teachers, with kids, with the veterans, the impact, those kinds of things that you're seeing.
Well, since 2008, when we first received the funds, and John always tells the story about I went in and they gave me $250,000, and when he asked for stamp money, they wouldn't give it.
And that's true.
That's great.
I love that story. I'm like, but it's
you weren't convincing enough. Apparently.
I wasn't. Yeah. Like I said, the trust thing.
Yeah, right.
I love that story because I'm like, I felt like a used car salesman when I first talked to these guys, but they've, I tell you what, never been sorry that I stepped into that role because I was asked by a friend of mine who was a World War II veteran. And that's where I came into it. He kept saying, we know that you can help us do this, come and help us do this. But we've had a ton of help since we got it started in 2008. Since we started the program, we've had over 35 schools involved. And since this is a lot of work, we have schools that come and go, but they always tell us that, it was probably the very best thing that they ever did was connecting those kids with those veterans in a way that you hear these kids say, these guys were 18, 19 years old. They were the same age we were. And they're over there giving their life by the thousands, and they're telling us their stories about, they basically took them out of high school and sent them over there on their senior trip, So that was really, and he's sitting here with tears in his eyes because you don't get involved with this unless you get emotional. And that's where you stay, when you start talking to these guys. And if I start crying, I'm sorry. But that's just where you are. So the work has been, and it's not the work that we did, it's putting those two groups together. So that is just, and we based everything on the U.S. Library of Congress protocols for interviewing and take the kids through a whole lot of standards that they need to be doing. Like,
you do a lot of training with these folks.
Yeah, we do.
With the kids.
Authentic learning, how they do good, how they do camera work and those kind of things, but more, how do I sit down and talk to somebody? How do I listen to them, not just go from one question to the other? I mean, there's all kinds of things that they learn when they do these.
Well, I've seen you guys work to help them bring in other artifacts and things to help tell the story, right? Pictures and articles.
We scan, teach the kids how to scan that. And then we also try to base things on something like a Ken Burns type documentary, because not only do they do the raw footage and we send it to the U.S. Library of Congress, a lot of these kids take those stories, especially like Harlem 122 and O'Fallon High School down in O'Fallon, Harlem 122 is up in Rockford. They take them and turn them into mini documentaries. These kids have, they've won awards, not just our awards, but like the Beloit, Wisconsin awards. I mean, there's just all kinds of really good things that come out of this. So we've been involved in that, and the kids have probably done close to 1,000 interviews. We've got probably about 600 documentaries, and we've probably got another 600 or so that have ended up to the U.S. Library of Congress. Hopefully we'll be able to keep on going with this. Right.
Well, let's talk about what can help perpetuate things. Obviously, some dollars would help, and I would think that if there are individuals that are interested in supporting the continuation of this, through the Principals Foundation, we can provide a nice tax deduction to help provide a pathway for some of that, and we're prepared to help support that, obviously. But if schools are interested in getting involved, Vicki, how can they do that?
Well, they can email me, easy enough. It's Vicki at ilprincipals.org, VICKI. The other thing is we've kind of scaled some of the information down so that we could actually, since these are a little more detailed and a little difficult, it's hard to involve the smaller children in this, but we actually have a new curriculum that I'd like to talk about if we could, and a new project.
Absolutely.
Right. With November 11th coming up, which is actually used to be called Armistice Day, which was the end of World War I, in a year, in 2018, we'll have a 100th year anniversary for the end of World War I. And we got to thinking about, it actually is a national movement to start looking for doing inventories in the states. We need to be doing inventories of all war memorials in the state of Illinois. And so we've written up a basic curriculum, and if anybody's interested, just give us a holler. It's about basically taking pictures of the memorial, tell us what kind of condition it is, do a GPS point of where it is, and we'll start collecting those things and hand it off to the National Archives.
Interesting. Well, that's fascinating. And then to be looking at doing that with all conflicts, but starting with World War I.
Yeah, and we're up for anything. If they want to send us whatever they want to send us, if they, maybe they don't have a World War I memorial, maybe they have only World War II, maybe they've got a Desert Storm memorial, something. But the idea is to tie it back into the state GPS location folks with the state library and get it done that way too.
Right, that's fascinating. Well, and that really goes on in line with what you've been trying to do with the classroom work as well, because it's expanded well beyond World War II, for example. I know that you're capturing video of veterans from the Korean conflict as well as the Vietnam War, our conflicts in the Middle East here as of late. All of those things.
Well, we're hoping if we get enough schools involved in this, that the next year, after 2018, that we could actually talk to the schools about, we didn't care if it was a stagnant story, maybe it's something if they're happening to look at a World War I memorial and they see names on the World War I memorial, take a look in their communities, is there family that's still there? Can they tell us a story about this veteran? And then we could write it up and put it up as a published story. It doesn't have to be digital, but it can be that way.
You bet. So just in the essence of time, one of the other things I want to make sure to capture in here, John, that the work that the World War II Board is doing, you guys do provide a scholarship, if I remember correctly. So could you just quickly let us know how students might be able to get access to some dollars?
Sure. This website will be www, the digit 2il.com. That's www.il.com. And through there, there's, I believe, a form that you can fill out. And it's essays is what we're looking for. But that's managed through Community Foundation. And we've handed out probably anywhere between $25,000 and $30,000 worth of scholarships. Wow. And we give $1,000 to a young man and $1,000 to a young woman. So again, that was all a credit to the World War II veterans that continued to pursue after our dedication day and wanted to do more and more. So reaching out to the youth, and that's what they did.
Great, that's terrific. So just to give each of you one last opportunity here to really speak, from your experience, why is this critical to really keep things moving along?
When we first started doing this, the veterans said to me, they said, we're not sure that the youth of today could ever take on the enormity of something that we did and become out successful. Mm-hmm. Well, after about a year and a half of this project, one of them said to me, I'm not worried anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right, you bet. Well, it's just getting those generations together, right, and getting to know one another. Absolutely. How about you, John?
Well, I when asked this question, I used this number, 60 million people. And to keep that in perspective, there was about 12 million, maybe 13 million people in the state of Illinois. 60 million is the number that died during World War II. Men, women, and children. If we do not, it's a catchy phrase, but a true statement. If we do not remind our youth of today of what happened yesterday, another mother will be taken away. Another young girl will be taken away. Discrimination will happen, oppression will happen, and it starts with one man, and they follow the leader. And if we don't step in, it happens again.
Yeah. Well, we'll just leave it with that. So, John Carrigan, Vicki DeWitt, thanks for talking about this really special work. Again, my name's Jason Leahy with IPA, and for veterans that are happy to watch this video, and we've got several of our members that are veterans or are still serving. We appreciate the work, the dedication, the sacrifice that you continue to make for your country, for your families, for schools and kids across this country, across the nation. We sure appreciate all of that, and on behalf of the IPA, thank you for your service. Take care.